All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Dale Spoonemore. I work with Chase over at Surgical Care Affiliates, and this talks to me a little bit different than the other ones. I'm not necessarily talking about code. I'm talking about how I adjusted my work, life, and what I'll call farm balance to crush anxiety and depression. So this story for me starts back in 2008. This was me when my first daughter was born. I was about 340 pounds, and I had this light bulb moment where I realized I wasn't going to be the kind of dad I wanted to be if I didn't do something to change. And back then, I didn't even necessarily understand that I had a problem with anxiety or depression. I just had a lot of other health issues, and I knew I needed to change. So I went on this weight loss kick, and I lost about 120 pounds in 9 months, and I started cycling and marathon running and doing all these things. But all along the way, I still had the anxiety and the depression. Yes, I was much healthier. I lost all the weight, but things weren't still quite right. I mean, look at this picture here on the right. I just finished a marathon, and I couldn't care less. I mean, things were not quite right. And you can see here, in 2012, I was on the Rachel Ray show for weight loss, and still, things just weren't. I was healthy, but I wasn't mentally healthy, and my relationships were starting to suffer, and I had forgotten why I had even gotten involved in all this to begin with, and it was because I wanted to be around for my kids, but I spent all my time on my bike and running, and I was away from them all the time. So in 2012, things fell apart for me. I lost my first marriage. I got into a pretty deep depression. And then the next year, God sent me an angel. I met my wife, Carrie. And 4 months into our relationship or so, you try and hide the bad parts of you, when you first meet someone, and eventually it's going to come out. About 4 months into it, I had my first kind of anxiety, panic, freak out. And all throughout my life before then, I had been able to blame it on other people. I was really good at it. I could come up with a reason why it was someone else's fault. And she was the first person in my life that said, no, what is wrong? Something happened here. What is wrong with you? You're not the same person. And I realized I was going to lose her too if I didn't do something to change. So that got me into this book here, which is really what I'm here to talk about. This book here has changed my life. And it talks about how to defeat anxiety and depression with natural ways. I tried the antidepressant route. I hated it. It made me not me. For some people, that's fine, but for me, it just wasn't what I wanted to do. So this book talks about basic things. Drink plenty of water, eat the right foods, specifically things with magnesium and calcium-rich foods. Get a lot of exercise, get plenty of sleep. Mindfulness is a huge part of it. I'm in QA, so naturally my brain is wired to analyze risk. That can cause a huge problem in your personal life, especially when I have 4 kids now, and each one of those comes with their own set of risks and whatnot. So I've got to really focus on keeping my mind into the here and now. So whenever I start to venture into the future or I start to go into the past and I'm thinking about things I shouldn't be, I bring it back to here and now. That's been a huge part for me. Also getting plenty of sunlight and social activity, those are also big parts of it as well. So I want to talk about how this relates to how I work now, because in 2014 now, I guess, I started working at Surgical Care Affiliates with Chris and Chase and Will, and Justin's over here somewhere. There he is. And it introduced me to a new way of working. So before then, I spent all day, every day in front of a computer. I didn't get up much. I came in, I got to work, I went to lunch, and then came back and did the exact same thing. And I thought I was being productive. I thought I was doing what I was supposed to do. And they introduced me to some new concepts. So taking breaks, the power of that. Remote work. We all work remote a large part of the time. If you want to take breaks, one method of doing that to standardize it is the Pomodoro method. I don't follow a set structure of sorts. The way that I work now is I get up in the morning, I go out in the garden and I'll talk about that here in a second. I go out in the garden for a little bit, and then I come inside and I work, and then I alternate that throughout the day. And what that's allowed me to do, it's allowed me to be a much better problem solver, for one. So in the past, whenever I got stuck on a topic, I've tried to learn coding a number of times, and I always failed before. But whenever I took on the automation project that I talked about here a few months ago, it was so much easier following these methods. So whenever I get stuck on a problem, I get up and I walk away. And I go out in my garden, and I do something mindless. I water, I look for bugs, or something like that. And inevitably, the answer I'm looking for will pop into my head, and I'll go sprint into my office as fast as I can and start typing, and sure enough, that was the answer. And that simple little thing has done more to increase my productivity than probably anything else I've done in my career. And, it is important to have a team that supports you in this. Our team all feels the same way I do about these kind of things. If you're in a job where you're in the office all day, it may be hard, but there's still ways you can get out. I mean, go take a walk around the building, do things like that. And really the key to life is just having balance. In the past, whenever I dealt with all those issues, I didn't have balance. I had heavy work periods, or I would be really involved in one thing, but I didn't have balance spread across everything, and that's been a key component for me. So now, this was whenever I started at SCA. We started a garden, and because of the things I talked about and the remote work and being able to alternate throughout the day, this is what I was able to build in 2 years. And the reason why we built this was because, I mentioned earlier up here, the part about food and water and all these things. Well, all of these kind of pointed me towards the idea of starting a garden. The calcium and magnesium-rich foods, well, that's spinach, kale, and lettuce. It gets expensive when you try and buy that all the time. That's what led me into here. I drink a ton of water when I'm out in the garden because I get really hot and sweaty. So you kind of have to drink water. Your body forces you to. Get a lot more exercise. I mean, you wouldn't believe all the things you have to do, like turning compost piles, unloading truckloads of wood chips every week. All of these things get me exercise. I sleep a lot better now. I used to wake up with an alarm clock, and now I just leave my blinds open, and I wake up with the sun gradually. And it's a lot different experience than waking up with this alarm that kind of jolts you awake. That's not how humans are designed. And 1,000 years ago, that would have been a big deal. If there's a sudden random noise while you're sleeping, that's cause for alert and cause for concern. So now I wake up with the sun, I go to bed with the sun. Again, mindfulness has been a big part of it, and I don't necessarily think the garden really helps with that as much, but that's kind of a different side of it. And then, sunlight, obviously, you're out in the sun all day. And then social activity. That's why I'm here at groups like this. So that's one part of the remote work that can be challenging, and especially whenever I first started with it, I didn't go around people enough, and I started to see the effects of it. So now I've learned that it's important to go around people and have that as well. So, so if you'd like to know more, I had to rush through this as fast as I could. I haven't done this talk in 10 minutes, so I was kind of nervous about being able to fit it in. But I wrote a blog post that details all of this, kind of everything I've learned along the way. It's on my website at www.seedtospoon.net. And if you'd like to know more about growing food, that's what I do now. That's my side passion project, I guess you would call it. I try and inspire as many people as I can to learn, to grow food and to learn the types of lessons I've learned through this, because it's changed my life. And I'm not going to lie and say I don't deal with anxiety. I still have anxiety from time to time. I don't have depressions anymore. Those are the ones that scare me, because when you're in a depression, you don't even know you're in it until you're out of it, and it's like you were a tornado, and you kind of look behind you, and it's like, what did I just do? You're not even yourself. But the anxiety I view as it's my tool. It's how I get all this stuff done. That's how I got all this done. Whenever I feel anxious, I go outside and I do something. And it's been key. So I hope this helps someone out there. If you deal with issues related to mental health and anxiety and depression, I know a lot of us do in this industry. There are ways you can fix it without having to take medication and do all of that. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or if there's any way I can help. And thanks for the time today.